What's up, everyone? Today there's a Generac 3500 XL on there. The owner says smokes really bad and he just wants a new carburetor. I told him that there's possibility of it not being the carburetor, but he wants a new carburetor. So this is a machine that he's going to take home. He's working here temporarily, and I guess a buddy of his or something gave him my number, and here it is. So it doesn't say it on there, but I'm 95% sure this is a GN190, maybe 200, 210, something like that. Not too sure on if it creates power. I'm hoping it does, considering he says it does. I know that some of them will actually have like an oil filter, so I'm looking for that, but I don't really see anything. Let me explain to you why I don't think it is. Now, I've looked at this just as much as you did. I literally drug it into my garage 2 days ago. Parts came in today, and now we're working on it. I have worked on a couple of these before, but usually when a carburetor needle fails, gas from the bowl will rise up, pass everything, start to leak, but then this intake goes up. And in other machines that the intake is level or even goes down, nothing comes to mind on that one, but in case one does actually go down, this would be a problem where the gas can seep into the intake. More likely than not, if the valve's open, the fuel will then go into the cylinder, go past the rings, gas will mix with the oil level rises, and then you end up burning a lot of oil, hence the smoke. So I see his logic, but this uphill, I mean, that would be pretty hard, unless it was put on its side or something random like that. I don't really see it, but let's check the oil. Luckily too. Oh my god. Ugh. Wow, death grip on that one. Luckily to check if the oil is filled with gas is pretty easy. It might overflow. You could just put too much oil in too. It's not overflowing. It does not smell like gasoline though. So that's not good. It is kind of high. There's lots of reasons why it's going to be smoking. Poor rings, maybe a crankcase vent is plugged somewhere, maybe the valve guides, or this is the overhead valve engine. Yeah, I mean, I suppose that could be a problem, but it's not looking too good. But the guy wants a new carburetor. He's going to get a new carburetor. I'm going to change the oil. Let it run for a bit. Because I didn't actually let it run, he was saying smoke. So that could be black smoke. Black smoke means you have too much fuel, and it is just burning very, very rich. So black smoke is going to be a little bit of an easier problem to fix, and let me explain why. So I've had one of these carburetors before. They're nice when you look at it because, oh look, I have an adjustment screw, which very well could be probably the issue here. But there's also like a ball bearing pressed into the, I'll show you later, but this is kind of what my idea is. This happened 3 times for me for this exact same carburetor. But there's a ball bearing pressed into the, I I don't even know what it would be called. It would be like the passageway for the idle. I guess it would be a pilot jet, but I'm not sure. That passageway is closed off with that ball bearing, and sometimes that ball bearing falls out, or there could be like a plastic plug. Something real screwy is in there, which would explain the black smoke part of it. But I kind of want to look at the spark plug and see what it looks like. So that's the spark plug. I don't know if you can see it, but it looks pretty bad. There's giant chunks of carbon, and gap might be a little off, maybe. It's a little hard, but this is a clean towel, and just look at that. That to me kind of looks more like an oil burning problem, or really, really bad gas. Well, I guess onward and forward. Here's a new carb. It should be relatively straightforward. 15/16 on top and bottom. Sometimes these have a paper filter and sometimes these have a foam filter. I believe a paper filter is what you see when you actually pull up the machine, and this one has a foam filter. Let's see, does this fit in there? I had this one laying around. It does. We'll put that one in there. Assuming that the case, yeah, the case should hold it. I just don't. Oh. There's supposed to be a bolt right there, but it's missing. Someone's been in here before. And they didn't use the right screwdriver and kind of wallered out the screw. But luckily I do have the right screwdriver. And yes, these are almost a mile long. The carburetor did come with new gaskets, so assuming that these break, I'll put those on. If they don't, we might not. What was gas? I mean, gas next to a carburetor is not necessarily breaking news, but oh yeah, I have to take off this little cap. Get off there. This little red piece is usually long gone by the time I get it. They're not the easiest thing to get off. It's kind of always made me wonder why they always went for a walk. Come on. There we go. Probably should have done that in the beginning. When you do this, don't do that. Now fuel line didn't go on all the way. Let's turn this to off. A little bit of gas is probably going to come out. Does this just not work? Where's my cup? same. Maybe off isn't off. No. It's more than off. So the fuel shut off is not wanting to shut off the fuel very well. I'm going to dump that fuel and we'll take a look at a clean sample. Clean sample time. It doesn't smell horrible. It doesn't look horrible. So our first idea of really old fuel, I don't think that's too applicable. Yes, it's not brand new gas, but that's easily burnable. I'll just put it that way. So well, interesting. So when I was talking to the guy, I said, you know, I can replace the carb. He's like, how much? I said, well, it depends. Do you want an official carburetor made by whoever made this one or made by Generac? I don't know. I'm sure Generac doesn't make this. They just put their name on it. But do you want one of those? Or do you want just like a cheap knockoff one that will probably work? And he's like, how much is that? I'm like, well, official one's like 60 bucks. Maybe 40, 50, somewhere around those lines. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. He's like, but a cheap one's going to be like 20 bucks. Maybe. So this is a cheap one. For the most part, I mean, the fuel, more or less the same. Just that one has an arc. This obviously has a adjustment. This one does not. But the problem is this one has two mounting positions. I'm 99% sure this is the right one, especially when just kind of looking at how it mounts. Because let's say you'd put it like that. Now I'm kind of questioning that one. Now I'm kind of thinking it's that one. Yeah, we'll put it in the back one. At the very least, let's see here. Yeah, that just looks more like a range of motion. That would be more fluid for an engine, doesn't it? We'll put it in that one. The gasket on there looks to have survived. We'll do an autopsy on that if I can get it to stand. Fine, be that way. Get my fuel pliers. Let's see if I can do this with you in between me and the carburetor. Move that fuel clip a little bit further out of the way. I can probably release the hounds and put it back on. There we go. I'm not going to say I have very large hands because I don't, but Having larger hands in situations like that is going to make your life a whole lot easier because you could just kind of grasp it. Now, I remember there's something weird with the fuel line. I think it just has to sit in here. And probably the clip, you know. The fuel line's dirty, don't get me wrong, but it's actually pretty pliable. So I'm not too worried about the fuel line. This fuel clip, though, not want to apply well. I'll just have to leave that up there. And that's the breather hose, so you kind of have to be careful of that. Where's the screws? It's going to help us out a little bit here. Get it all nice and lined up. Where's the choke? Of course. As soon as you get it nice and lined up, the choke doesn't want to play well. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So this is probably as entertaining as paint drying, so I'm just going to tighten this up and put the cover back on. So I'm putting on the paper filter, and I'm going to open the garage door. We'll give her a yank and see what happens to it. Check out this funkery. I don't think that's normal. Pretty sure it's not. It's also stripped down. They just wailed on it too. I kind of just want to take it apart. So there's no doubt in my mind this was worked on before. This completely erodes it. Why you couldn't just have gotten an 11/16 wrench instead of a pair of pliers to put this on before, like it looks like they did. I don't know. Maybe this is stock. It's the weirdest stock. I've never seen this on this type of engine before. Yeah, look at the size of that. So, that whole idea of mine having that idle jet being the problem, no, it doesn't even have that here. What an odd carb. So you would loosen this, screw that in. There's definitely some crap in there. But you said it ran. Interesting. Here's a quick tip. In order to put this spark plug socket on there, I have to put it on the spark plug, but when I was taking it off, it was pressing up against this little housing. Now you either could take off the housing, or if you actually have a real spark plug or a real socket meant for a spark plug, they usually have one of these surfaces that you guys put a wrench on. So I would, when tight quarters like this, that's how I'm just going to tighten it up. So this switch I do believe is on. And well, they have written run. Choke is now on. The oil I've not changed yet. The reason why I have not changed it yet was because I want to let it run a little bit and change it. I let it run a little bit more and see if it stops smoking. And if it doesn't, this video might be longer than it is. Let's see here. It did so good. It was just cold. I mean, this thing does seem like it have a lot of hours on it. It seems like it's losing spark. It does have a low oil cutoff, but the light's not on it. Yeah, there's no light on there. No, it does have a low oil light that just turned on right now. Okay, well, I didn't want to do it, but I might have to change the oil right now. So I'm going to change the oil and bring it back. So I changed the oil. It's definitely not low. And it's still doing the same thing. So I just unplugged it. The low oil sensor's bad. I'm going to call the guy and see if he wants a new one. If not, he could just unplug it. Leave it up to him. Now, let's go ahead and have my meter. I'm going to get like a little draw. And we'll see what we can do for power. Heat gun here. It's about 1800 watts. Let's put that on 1 and turn it down a little bit. Have that go in there. Actually, let's not plug that in immediately. Let's just plug this in. So, what does that tell us? It revved up quite a bit after. And in addition, when there was a 1800 watt load on there, which is a little over half, it dropped down to a little above 50 hertz. 52, 54, something like that. Alright, I would be okay with like 58. But that is a little bit unacceptable. We're going to take a look at the governor. So, I did a lot of tuning and everything, well, a little bit, and it just isn't getting any better, and the low oil sensor's leaking anyway, so at the very least that's going to have to be replaced or bypassed entirely. But no matter what I do, as soon as it gets a load, it just falls down. I took the spark plug off, or at least disconnected. Anyway, so I've either detected it's just worn out, or there's some type of valve adjustment needed. I don't want to touch the exhaust. I let it cool for a bit, and it is like, you know, 20, like 35 degrees outside, which is pretty odd for this time of year. It's usually not that cold. But it's okay. It'll be warm here soon. Go up to 55. Okay. So, what do we have here? It's like the most simplistic valve adjustments I've ever seen. I'm gonna get a pair of gloves on. Now, because I don't really know what type of engine this is, I'm assuming it's a 190 or 200. I'm just gonna go off those. Okay, so the exhaust valve is all the way down. Let's see what we have. I believe it said 4 to 6 thousandths. This is a 4. Well, I mean, I'm sure 5 would be next to perfect, so that's fine. Let's try the exhaust, and the exhaust is the same. This is warm, by the way. That's really tight. That's a little too tight for comfort. Now, one of my worries is that the carb, because it is an import, it's just too lean. Now, I could drill it. Always a possibility, but I don't really want to do that. I'd rather just clean the old one, to be honest. It's actually a whole lot better right there. I'll just tighten it just a squish. Might be a smash, not a squish. No, that was a squish. Okay, so let's take this out, and everything else seemed fine. So I put the throttle on the other position. It's just going to, well, let's see, what's that screw set to? Idle screw is pretty low. No, that wouldn't be a problem. I'm gonna put it back together. Let's give it a try. Okay, cross your fingers. Plugging it. Plug back in. Let's try no choke. Choke. Oh, maybe on. That helps. Yep, no. Exact same thing, not a single change. So I'm going to clean that old carb and put it back on. It might just be a tuning problem with the fuel, and I'll just have to explain it to him. And it's better to have this carb anyway. So I'm going to switch carbs and be right back. So while I was waiting for the ultrasonic cleaner to clean the other carb, took off the bowl, took out the jet, I drilled it out one size larger. Let's just see what happens. Let's do no choke. Maybe choke. I made a little bit of a difference. It's still just too high. Maybe I'll drill it out one more size. Attempt number 2. Well, that was weird. Maybe lower that down with just a screw and see what happens. So just there's like a little nut in there. You just loosen, unloosen, or tighten to change the RPM. So why don't we do that? This is off. I'm going to try to get to 62 hertz or so, and then turn the heater on. Let's see if it needs choke. You know what? Apparently tighten. That's what I wanted to do. Let's do that instead. Why don't we? Let's see. Yeah, that's going to be at 2000 RPM. But at least we know where we're starting at. And if it revs out of control, then we know there's still something wrong. Well, I guess now there's something wrong. So I was fiddling with the governor, and all of a sudden when it just started working, I kind of felt there's something wrong. So I loosened the nut, and it's still having a really hard time moving. I think it's so crusted over with crap. Just having a hard time. So I'm going to reset the governor, clean it up as best as I can so it's fluid, and then we'll try this one more time. Okay, I lubed up everything, reset it. It's still probably too low, but I'd rather raise it and not have it over rev. So let's try it. I also moved this. Maybe that's too much. Let's try that. It's a lot better, but I'm literally maxing out the spring right now. That's not good. So I'm going to put the spring where it was originally, and I'll try it again. It's the next day. I did a little research and downloaded the manual for this engine. Well, I think it's this engine. It's a GCV, or whatever the 190 is, the GN, there we go. And I looked at the other manuals, and they all seem to be more or less the same, which is not too surprising. But I adjusted the governor. Basically, you hold the RPMs all the way open, so the throttle's all the way open on the carburetor, and you turn the little shaft after loosening the governor arm from like the actual governor rod, you turn the rod all the way clockwise until it will not go any further. You hold it in place, you tighten it so it kind of crimps down. In addition to that, I lowered it so it wouldn't over rev. I have my 5/16 here. I have my load, my meter. I'm hoping to see this. Very low RPM. When I crank it down, it gets higher, 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 higher. What I don't want to see is it just over rev out of control. If that's the case, then we know that it's just a bad internal governor, and there's really not much we can do. This right here is actually a idle adjustment. I turned that out just in case if you were to push it all the way in, it could potentially affect it as well. So let's give it a pull and see what happens. Keep my finger close to the kill just in case. No, that's not working. I just not seen. All the way is idle. So pushing it in is idle. So I have one more idea and then we will just condemn this to death. So in addition to doing the governor, in reading about the governor, I was also reading about this idle down option, and they basically said it is a great theory on paper, but in practicality it's really not good. It's very, very temperamental, very, very specific. So basically I have it tuned in as best as I can, and that inadvertently has been affecting the RPM of the engine by itself. So it might need a little bit more tweaking, but let's see how this works out. The low idle on. Let's turn up the idle. that is the problem. I'm pretty sure that little idle is also just jacked up. When it's not on, it doesn't do that. So, a lot of generators don't even have that. So I'm just gonna tell the guy it works, it's fine, and put it back together. Oil. Well, I'm gonna have to order another oil sensor because that's where the leak is coming from. You can see on the bottom, but it's gonna run a little high. It's gonna be like 126, 127 volts with no load at like 63 hertz or so. But then you put load on there, it stayed around 60, and it's over half, so it's not too bad. And it was like 120.8, 120.1, so it should be good. It was just this, just messing everything up. Basically, I just turned it on, loosened it with a pair of pliers, and once it got to the point where the engine speed was normal, excuse me, I tightened the nut down as hard as I could while holding onto it so it wouldn't continue to spin in with the nut, and then we fine-tuned it right now. So I think the low idle circuit is bad on this. It's just not worth it. But yeah, so this is the Generac GN190. Okay, well, if you like what you see, keep watching. Definitely put a thumbs up, subscribe. I'll catch everyone later. Have a good rest of your evening. So 2 updates. I contacted the owner and told him about the low idle cutoff issue, and I told him it could be fixed. It would be expensive. I didn't diagnose it yet, but there's quite a few things it could be, and none of them are cheap. So he decided to not worry about it. And 2, I actually put on last night. I didn't record it because I was sure it wasn't going to happen. But I put on the old carb. It seemed like it was, still doing more or less the same thing. I was wondering if it would be a linkage problem. Here it is. But it was fine. And then I took it off. I tried to see if one of the other jets or the other bolts would be able to fit in there, but it doesn't. And it's just a completely different style like we saw before. So it's not the carb, that's for sure. But yeah, other than that, it seems to be working fine. Just that little idle. So I just wanted to put an update out there. So this is the actual goodbye. Have a good night.